Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me. Hey, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me and Shatika. What we're gonna do is this is right now Shatika. She's the financial planner. And to me, what she's gonna do is she's gonna discuss, she's gonna educate us on some of the things that we think we might know, but we don't know. And what the difference is, you build generation wealth for you, your family, your grandkids, and everybody else, and then you take it and you lose it. So it wasn't even worth building it. So what I'm gonna do is, with no further introduction, drum roll. Here's
All
your
right, all
teacher.
right. Stop it. Listen, good evening, everyone. Brian, I always appreciate you for allowing me the opportunity. Of course, we're not going to be long tonight. We're going to be strong. The goal really is to kind of bring some awareness to this topic that we've been discussing, just around estate planning. Really briefly, I want to put this disclaimer out there that I am not an estate planning attorney by no means. I'm familiar with the topic and can bring some awareness to people that aren't aware about it. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that because nothing that I'm saying can be mistaken for any type of financial advice or any type of estate planning or legal advice. We want to make sure that we put that disclaimer out there so there's no liabilities there. But really, Brian, I mean, it's really about bringing awareness because most people haven't heard of the Rockefellers, right? So the Rockefellers,
Who
right?
haven't heard of
You know,
Rockefeller?
say again.
Who haven't heard of the
I
Rockefeller?
know, I know.
Growing up in
They
New
might have been
York,
they might have been
Rockefeller
on the
Center.
rock, right? But either
Yeah,
way,
Rockefeller.
John D. Rockefeller, if you don't know who he is, it was definitely one of the wealthiest to live. And when you look at who he was and what he was able to accomplish, pretty phenomenal. And he really was able to move his assets and structure everything and position everything like a king. So when you do your history, how kings and queens are able to have assets and how they rule with
Mhm.
everything that they have. John D. Rockefeller and his family did a really good duplication of that, right? So I think that we often hear people say, king and queen today. But what does that really mean, right? How does that play a factor in terms of how our finances and how our generational wealth is when we call one another kings and queens? Are we really kings and queens? Do we have our assets positioned in such a way that we can absolutely be able to say that emphatically? So today, his estate is about $409 billion. If you were to kind of do the actuation of it, right? So what how much is he valued at today? But either way, it's not really about that. The conversation really is about how to position yourself like a king or a queen. And we do that by making sure that our paperwork is in alignment, right? Like it's ready, it's prepared, to such an extent that we create what's called generational wealth, because we've been hearing that buzzword for quite some time.
Mhm.
You're leaving an inheritance for your children and your children's children. Well, I hear the single people already. I don't have children, I don't have whatever, but it's still a posture that you have your paperwork in order and things are in order, to where you're creating what you need to make sure that there's a legacy. Rather, you're leaving a legacy to a charity, an organization, or
Okay.
whomever. You are making sure that your paperwork is in order and that everything happens to be in the right place whenever you expire. And this could even be, listen, while you're living, but on a ventilator, right? Or, while you're in a medical facility because you are unconscious, and something is going on. What's going on with your estate or whatever it is that you have? So the question is, if today you get hit and you're in a coma, God forbid, what's going to happen to your estate, right? Because this is even while you're living. Is your paperwork in order? Is it in some type of maybe in a fireproof uh safe,
Safe.
and
Mhm.
people know exactly where it's at? Who knows where it's at? Do you have someone designated as a medical power of authority, right? Let's just talk about before we even expire, you know, what's happening with your estate, right? Now, we talked a little bit for the past couple of weeks about, how we want to make sure that you control everything and own nothing. Rockefellers did this very, very well. They modeled after who? They modeled after the kings and queens, right? And so kings and queens don't pay taxes. Did you know that?
No.
They don't pay taxes.
Because people pay them taxes.
They rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you rule, you don't pay taxes, all right? Because you know how to make sure everything is structured properly so that you don't have to. Not to say that, you know, you do anything illegal, by no means. We're not saying that. We're just saying that the way things are structured, like the wealthy do, there's no taxes being paid. That's what we're saying. And so what we're saying is that you got to crown yourself by creating, you know, your paperwork in such a fashion that is going to do just that. So how do you do that? How do they do that? They use their trust. There's all different types of trust. We're not going to go into that. Okay. We're not going to deep dive and we're not going to detail anything tonight. We're going to be real high level, very broad. And then you can do your research or you can hire an estate planning attorney because I am not she. Okay. So a trust is what they used in order to make sure that they could have things positioned to where what? They controlled everything, but they own nothing, right?
Okay.
But then they do because the trust owns it, right? At the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're crowning yourself and it's synonymous to getting your affairs in order. Now, what is a trust? I want to read the textbook definition, right? Is a fiduciary relationship in which one party, known as the trustor, gives another party, the trustee, the right to hold title to property or assets for the benefit of a third party, the beneficiary. Textbook answer. What is a trust? Why would somebody want to trust over a will? If you don't want your estate public, you want it private, then you would want to make sure that it's in a trust. A will is a public record. Anybody can see that. That's why we can see all the different superstars and what they had or did not have, because they had a will, they didn't have a trust. And unfortunately, the state sometimes can do a whole lot more with your property when it's in a will, more so than when it's in a trust, right? So how it's distributed, who it's distributed to, all that is made public when it's in a will. And that is why the wealthy put that's another reason why they want to make sure that it's private and it's inside of a trust. All right. So a will is public record. So we're clear on that. If I was to ask you a question, you know, I want to ask you some different questions just to get you thinking about, you know, why this is so important, right? So let's say you're a business owner and you have all of these different things going on with your business. Who's going to run your business if tonight you end up in the hospital? Who's running your business? Who's your power of attorney? Who's making all the decisions? Who knows where all of your passwords are? Who knows, you know, all the information around your homeowners association, your mortgage, what to do with your mortgage, what to do with your children, who's going to take care of your children if you have them, you know, all of these, who's handling everything, you know, even down to the lawn guy, the person that's cutting your grass, you know, who is handling all of your affairs? Do you have a medical power of attorney? They can even talk about whether you're going to live or not, or what to happen if you know, do you have a medical power of attorney? Let's talk about you. If something has happened to you medically, and then go from there. What's going to happen to everything that you own? How is it going to be positioned? Right? All of your business, from your business that you own to your children, to your bills that you have, every bill that you have, what is going to happen to it? How is it going to get distributed? How is it going to get paid? How is it structured? Who has the instructions? Where are the instructions? How is everything going to be set up, right? If you own intellectual properties, you own books, you own records, you own CDs, whatever you own, what's going to happen to all that, right? So how is it going to be distributed? How is the profits from your intellectual properties going to be distributed? All right. If you have multiple children, if you have multiple properties, what's going to happen to each property. All right. Whether the person, let's just say you live, but then you become mentally incapacitated for some reason. Something happens to you mentally, right? Everything that is called a living trust, right? So while you're living, you have made a trust. You've put out information that's to educate everybody in terms of how you want things to happen, or your will, however you want to say that, will or trust, if you want it private or public. All right. If you want to have a trustee, right? So some people, they establish a trust, and then they name themselves or their children, spouse as a trustee. How is that going to be set up? Who's going to be in charge of what? Right. And the courts, when they look at it, if you was expired, they look at, what was your mental capacity, right? And so anybody, that's your family, your mother, let's say you have aging parents, before something happens, if they have dementia, do they have this paperwork in order before they get dementia? Because you're not going to be able to do it once you get dementia, right? So it's important that the mental state, and that you have the capacity to be able to do these types of paperwork and documents before something is to happen to you mentally, because the courts will throw it out if you're not mentally able. So these are some of the things that you have to start taking a look at when we talk about generational wealth and having your affairs in order and living like a king or a queen. Are we making sure that we have things in order? And that's primarily the conversation for tonight. That's primarily, like I said, it's high level. Just wanted to come here and ask these questions, because if you're not asking these questions, if you're not really looking at this, why are we working all of our lives to put all our assets, make our assets large and have all the stuff that we own, and then die, and then the state takes charge, right? Depending on what state you live in, it has to be broad, because guess what? Every estate planning attorney is going to be specific to a state. They're not going to be specific nationwide. Okay. They're not going to be able to tell you nationwide what's going on with you and how to govern your affairs. So it depends on your state. Like, for example, I did an interview with a young lady on 2 of my different, Instagrams. She was a Florida estate planning attorney. She could only speak to the laws in Florida. She can't tell you what's going on in Texas or anywhere else, right? So it's important to understand that too. All right. And so when you speak to and you vet out these estate planning attorney, understanding where do they have, jurisdictional authority, right, to be able to help you based on where they are, and things of that nature, because every state has its own laws. How they do, probate is different in every state. So it's important to understand that. And what is your state saying about probate and how things are going to be governed, right? And understand it's just a lot of little intricate details. And an estate planning attorney is the best person for you to speak to when it comes to the will or the trust. But the whole purpose of this live tonight is to really get your wheels turning so that you can start asking these questions and really understanding how everything is going to flow, right? A will is simply you giving instructions, but again, it's public, right? Just public instructions, and then it can be absolutely overturned by the court. All right. But again, consult with your state to see what the laws are saying about a will in your state versus a trust in your state and how those things are governed. Some states are more friendly in terms of what you want done in your will than others. So understanding that as well. So Brian, this is really the gist of the conversation tonight. Just trying to bring awareness around this. Very, very broad, very, very basic. Not trying to be deep, not trying to go into any details. Okay. Very high level, but want you to start thinking about these things, because this is what happens. She said it, in our conversation that, unfortunately, people don't have their affairs in order. And of course, just like the superstars, so many people end up not necessarily leaving anything to their loved ones, because it ends up going to the state, because depending on what state you are in, they're going to take that. They're just going to do what they want to do with it. I see you have some comments. Go ahead.
Even right now, I'm listening to everything that you say.
And I want you to talk up a little bit louder. Unfortunately, you're a little low because I had to transition to make this work on my phone.
Okay, but listen to everything that you just got finished saying. You said a mouthful, and what I mean by that is this: because once again, it doesn't matter it's like anything can happen at any given time. Like I always tell people, what's going to happen to each and every one of us? Life going to happen each and every day. So when you can't be prepared for the unexpected. So like you say, a person can work all their life. They can build generational wealth. They can have it all, but yet and still they not really in control because they haven't took it and put it in fine print. They haven't established a state. Whereas far as like what the sense you have it and you don't have it. Like for example, you ask a question, what if something happened to me? And to me, well, I got certain little things and I got certain people go straight to them. But then again, wait a minute. What about if you in a hospital and you become a vegetable? And right now is who make that decision? Who do you trust to have the combination, the asset to the fire safe and everything else, the asset to your account? Who do you trust? Because once again, that's what it really boiled back down to. Because once again, you know, and I know who we really trust. But then again, when you're not around, are you out of the picture? Are you in what they call that word in cat? What you call it in cat? You out of commission. So if you out of commission, guess what? People that's there going to make the decision for you that you failed to make when you was healthy enough to make it. So automatic, I love this because trust me, it's a lot of things. I gotta, once again, after this conversation, start jotting down, like, who's this, who's doing this, who's doing that, and everybody on the same page because you got to remember, guess what? Out of sight, out of mind. When you're not there no more, people are going to do what the hell they want to do, especially when it comes to dollar and cents. People change over money. But if you got certain things in place, then what you're doing is you're protecting everybody.
Yeah, it's really important for people to understand, really, in every space of everything that you have going on, what is the next instruction? How is the torch going to be, lit if something happens to you? Like who are you passing the torch to in every area of your life, right? Literally. And are your instructions specific enough? That's the
Mm,
biggest question. Is it
mm,
organized? Where is it? All right. So how and when do you want things distributed? How and when do you want things distributed? Those are the two biggest questions for everything that you own. And so really clearly, who are these individuals that you're leaving it to that you trust, right? And even down to your estate planning attorney, making sure that they're legit, because some people have left assets and estate planning attorney wasn't necessarily the right person to
yeah, 'cause
help
they
them.
got yeah.
Have you vetted them? What are people saying about that particular estate planning attorney and how they've been able to handle their business from their loved ones? So really doing your research on that as well, because they're having horror stories. Yes, you try to do the right thing, but making sure that you vet that estate planning attorney to such an extent, asking them all the right questions, looking them up, on the bar. Every state has a bar that you can go to, online and Google them and find out, what are the complaints about them, what's been being said about them, things of that nature. But making sure that you go to the bar for that state that you live in and finding out exactly how they're running business so that they are legit and they can absolutely help you. The worst thing is to hire the wrong person and they don't carry out your orders properly. They're not organized. You see what I'm saying? So you want to vet them and ask them a lot of questions around, how things are happening, if something was to happen to you, how they're organized, and things of that nature. So maybe even look at a case that they've already done and ask them some different questions about the case that they've already done to see how they handle things. You'll have a feel by having a conversation with them, to vet them out. I wouldn't speak to just one estate planning attorney. I would probably speak to about two or three of them and ask them all. You may not even know what to ask them, but in having a conversation with the one, now you have more questions to ask the second one, and then more questions to ask the third one. But really do a good vetting system, because you're going to pay, about $1,500 to $2,000 for a trust if you decide to
Mhm.
go that route. Depending on the actual attorney, they all charge differently. Some may charge hourly, some may charge for a retainer fee. How do they charge is another question, right? For your budget, but understanding that, and then don't go with the cheapest person. Go with the one that has the more legit, you know, they have the better ability to be able to help you understand how everything is going to flow, and also their track record with how they've been able to help their clients and what their clients are saying about them. Sometimes a few $100s more is worth it, right? To
Yeah.
have your affairs in order the right way.
You know what? But listen to what you just got finished saying. And what I like is this, because to me, you'd be surprised. And even somebody asks a question, Alex, any guideline online or books to read as to what make a good estate lawyer? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. So I would go to Amazon and just literally start typing in stuff like estate planning, and then just looking at the reviews and how many reviews are there, how many 5-star reviews on those different types of books. I mean, that's how, I do a lot of research looking for certain types of books. You can just type in estate planning attorney vet questions to ask, estate planning attorney. Just come up with different, the same when you ask me that question, ask that on Amazon, and then just kind of see what books pop up, and what the reviews are like. I don't have a specific book for you to read on that. And basically what would what would the Rockefellers do? There's books around that. So if you wanted to read, how they did things, but estate planning attorney specifically, I don't have a book to be able to recommend at this time. A good question. So, we can follow up and, try to do some research for you and try to get back to Ryan on that. I'll write it down.
But even right now, like I say, like to me, like it's amazing because, like I think even as of recently, within the last few months, a person as powerful as Prince, like when he passed, and right now, where it's like from my understanding, he didn't have a will. So now I guess it's in the state of Minnesota that they trying to figure out everybody coming along and trying to state claims. And you know what? Is that the way he want to be handled? But if you don't put nothing in place, because nobody gonna live forever. And you figure a person of that magnitude and the cash flows and the millions that went through his hand and that he had, like you feel that would be something like self-explanatory, and it's not.
Oh, it's so many. Yeah, it's so many. It's not just him. It's a lot of stars. I didn't even go there tonight. All of the different superstars that are out there, basketball players, singers that I know of. I'm not going to call names. I think I'm trying not to do that, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is, and their affairs were not in order. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter whether you're a superstar or not. You got some assets and you're trying to leave generational wealth and you're trying to leave an inheritance, and you want to make sure that you don't give it to the state. Some of that stuff, people just they can't wait. Real estate investors, the number one place they go to is the courthouse for probate. They want to make sure that they can get this stuff for cheap. So at the end of the day, just making sure that your business is in order, and then going back and making sure your business is in order, right? So first you're going to get it in order. You're going to organize it. You're going to make sure you have specific instructions that says when and how. And then you're going to get with an estate planning attorney, do a consultation. If they are charging you before you even have a conversation with them, those types of things, I don't know if they're going to, how great they're going to be honest, because I was told by a really good estate planning attorney that that's not how good estate planning attorneys charge. They want to have a relationship with you. They want to have a conversation with you. They literally need to become almost like part of your family. They need to be somebody that you trust, and it's an ongoing life relationship, so to speak. Kind of like your CPA and your. Remember we talked about your wealth team on the last live. We talked about all the people you need to have. You need to have your tax professional, your financial advisor, your financial planner. You need to have these different people on your team. But estate planning attorneys is one of them. But they need to become like one of your family. Like you need to have conversation with them. It shouldn't just be a business transaction only. You guys should have probably dinner, have a conversation, get to know them, understand, feel them out, see if they're about the money, just making money off of you, or if they're going to literally have your best interest and your family's best interest at heart. All right, because you can again hire the wrong person and they can care less about you and your family. They just listen. They trying to wake up and eat and live just like you are every single day, and they can care less,
So what
right?
you're saying is doing an interview, like interviewing these people.
it's a little bit more than it's a deep. It's a bit kind of like when when you try to go for a job, you have
Yeah.
behavioral interviews.
Yeah.
You got to
Interview.
tell them how you would behave in a certain
Mm-hmm.
situation. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
behavioral style interview that you need to have
Interview.
with them. It's not just a yes or no open end question.
Yeah.
It's an open end. It's not a close. It's you know what I mean. It's like not a yes or no. It's like dialogue, and you need to understand who they are. You need to be able to understand their character. Yeah, you're not gonna get that from one conversation,
No,
right? So there has to be a relationship established in order to do that.
I feel
And
that
so
process.
it's multiple conversations. Same thing with your financial people that you're working with. Multiple conversations. It's not just a have one conversation, you're hired type deal. I don't expect nobody to just hire me immediately. We need to have some conversation and see if we're a good fit. I mean, that's in anything in business, right? And then look at how legit they are, about how look at their website. Look at shucks, you can look at a lot about a person just
You,
by their office. Make sure you can get in their office and see their office, see what it look like. It's a whole lot of little things that you gotta be almost like Inspector Gadget when it comes to these people. They're doing your money. This is your life.
so the
Listen,
sign.
I closed with a young lady and she had $1 million for her retirement, and we drove and met and listen. We spent the whole day together because she was like, "Listen, I got $1 million. What we gonna do?" So at the end of the day, people want to make sure they feel you out, see what your offers look like, see what's going on with you. You're not just gonna turn over your estate planning to just anybody. How do you vet? It's kind of like when you meet somebody to marry them, you're not just gonna go on one date, right? And marry them. Most people don't do that. They want to feel them out, see if they're legit, and make a methodical decision. Based on a lot of little things that they can see about that individual and how they handle things, right? How detailed are they? They need to be somebody that's really detail oriented. I
Yeah.
can't see anybody's questions or comments at this time
Okay. Listen.
because
Hold.
I had some technical difficulties and ended up having to be on my phone tonight.
Okay, but you know what? Okay, here it is. I got a few. I got one. Basically, Miss T, straight talk of Miss T. Did you speak on having a trust which cover everything one leaves behind?
Yeah, I can barely hear you, but you asked a question about the trust. We glossed over the trust. We talked about the trust. We read the definition of what a trust is, and it's basically something where you're gonna leave a trustee in charge. All right, the trust being the trustor, that it has trustees. You can have one trustee or more than one trustee. All right, they're in charge of the trust, and the directions basically say that, right? What they're in charge of and who they are. And so the trust owns things, not a person per se, right? Not a social security, but a trust number owns it, right? And that's how you're able to see that people can control everything but own nothing, because everything is owned by the trust and not the individual. And then they have trustees in charge, which is like their children, their spouse, whomever they decide to be a trustee for the trust. Okay. And that's where the estate planning attorney, which I'm not, is going to help you to draw up the right paperwork. You're not going to go online and do this paperwork yourself and try to cut costs. You're not going to do that because you're not going to do it right. 99.999% of people are going to get it wrong. And that's why you have to hire an estate planning attorney. This is one place we don't cut corners. We hire somebody that's a professional and make sure that the paperwork is filled out correctly, so that the courts will make sure that it's done, that everything that you want distributed the right way is done the right way, based on the trustee that you leave in charge inside of the trust. So very, very important.
So, like to add to that, you pay for what you get, right? Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
You pay for what you get. Somebody else asked T underscore River, how do he go about getting his wife on his house deed?
Speak up a little bit, Brian. I can't hear you.
How do he go about getting his wife on his house deed?
Okay, so again, that's all going to be something, a wife being added to the deed. You're going to have to, is your home paid for? And if so, then you would basically go and try to get that done with some type of legal professional, not me. I mean, I can help you with that. But you would have to make sure that if it's one that you own and you want it on a deed, you could actually do a, give me 1 second, it's going to come to me. It's not coming to me. I apologize. I can go back in the comments and tell you what it is. But it's a real quick way that you can do a quick claim deed. I believe what it is. You could probably add them on that way. But you definitely, if you on if there's a mortgage on it, then that you couldn't do it that way. You couldn't do it with a mortgage because it's actually it has a lien on it. But if you own it straight out, I believe you can do like a quick claim deed to be able to add them on there. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure you probably could.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I got another. It's not a question. It's say, Mr. Gibbs, you should marry her. She's gorgeous and intelligent. Wow. Hey.
What do I have to do? What does that have to do with
I don't know.
generational wealth and having an estate planning attorney?
Hey, one
But
guy.
thank you for the compliment, whoever you are. I can't see your
Hey,
name.
Alex say quick claim deed can be used.
Okay, good.
Hmm. Yeah, but you know what? Like, even like listening, like to me, like some of the things that you share with us tonight, like it's unbelievable because once again, a lot of times we like to think that we're smarter than what we are, or that we know more than what we know. And even the fact that you taking the time to break it down to give us a complete understanding is so much that, like you said right now, you can work all your life and you can build like generation wealth. But what the sense of you doing it to turn around and lose it, then it was all in vain. It's like you did it all for like nothing.
That is sad. That is really sad.
And it happened more. How often do it happen? It happened probably more
Almost
often.
all the time. And here's the deal. Most people think that they don't. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I see your lips moving.
No. I was just reading something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that most people don't. They made me lose my train of thought. Well, most people don't feel like they need to do a trust, or they don't think they have enough. So I want you to understand that you just need to check it out. I mean, just do a consultation. Your first consultation with an estate planning attorney shouldn't be a charge. It shouldn't be. If there's a charge, the first conversation, like this person told me, they're all about the money. Go to a different one. But that first conversation needs to be: should I have, do I, what should I do with these assets? And what do you recommend I do? Should I have a will, trust? What do I need to do? Those types of things. They should be able to have a quick conversation with you, 15, 30 minutes, based on what you have. You need to come to the conversation with all of your assets. This is what I have. What do you suggest I do? Because I don't want the state to, everybody's going to go to probate. We said that 100% of you are going to go to probate. Whenever you die, all of your items are going to go to probate, right? It's going to go through probate. The question is, based on how well you prepare your documents and how well your estate planning attorney, is in alignment with what needs to happen, will determine, what goes to the state and all these different places, right? So you just want to make sure that you choose a competent, capable estate planning attorney. That's what they do. They should be great at it because that's all they do, right? They specialize in that. I don't. I just wanted us to have a conversation to start thinking about this, especially from a medical perspective. If you were in a coma, on a ventilator, whatever, what's going to happen from that point forward? Who is your medical point of authority while you are sick in a hospital? From that point until you die, and then beyond, what's going to be happening with everything that you own, all of your properties, your business, your affairs, the operation in your business? How is it going to flow? If something happens, who's next in charge in your business to take care of everything as it relates to your business? If you're a solopreneur, who's going to take care of your business? Because you've been doing it all by yourself all of your life, right? So those are the types of questions that I just wanted us to start thinking about. That was the whole purpose of tonight's broadcast, because again, I am not an estate planning attorney. I just know that this is an epidemic in the African American community. The things are just always going through probate and going to the state a lot of times, and in other communities as well, not just ours, but to the one that's not informed, the one that didn't take the time to understand the importance of making sure that the will that they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's as it relates to a will and or a trust. Everybody don't need a trust, but who needs it needs to make sure that it's in place, right? So it doesn't matter how much you have. If you want it in a trust, you can put it in a trust. It can be you can own very little and still have a trust. Everybody can have a trust. Let's be clear. It's up to you whether you want it in a trust or not. If you want it private, you want it public, you want a trustee in charge, or you just want to have some directions and then let the court help you decide when you're gone because you had it in a will. I mean, all those types of things you'd have to consider. But it depends on what state you're in. I can't stress that enough. It depends on your state and the laws in your state to determine how things need to flow. And that's why no one can give you a blanket statement or consultation on a live about what to do with your state, because every state law is different. And so depending on that will determine how you need to flow and operate as it relates to your business and your affairs. The main thing about tonight is just to make sure that you are organized, you have everything in a place, and somebody knows exactly where all of your paperwork is, and it's organized with specific instructions, probably in a fireproof safe somewhere, and somebody knows where it's at. So when you go, people aren't scrounging around. This is bigger than insurance, okay? This is beyond that. It's about a lot of instructions, okay? Not just money, but it's a lot of instructions. And so that's what that estate planning attorney, that's what they specialize in, on how to plan out your estate, your affairs, your business, in the event that something is to happen to you.
I got somebody asked this question. What advice for a first-time home buyer do you have?
Is a first-time home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So home buyer, do you own the home, or is the home still have a lien on it, right? That's the first question, because again, you're going to have to make sure that your estate, your home, is absolutely going to be one that's covered in terms of where you want that home to go. Whether it's a first time or a last home, a second, a 10th home, it doesn't matter. Who's going to get the home if you were to expire? If you owe money on that, right? No matter what, if you don't have it in an estate, the state can end up taking your home, right? If you don't have no directions on what to do with your home, and your home is owned, free and clear, then it could be lost, right? Like your children may not get it, or and definitely a minor. When it comes to a home like that, you have little children. You have to leave specific instructions on what to do with that home until that child reaches a certain age, right? So it's super important when you have little children on how everything is going to be written up, as it relates to your entire estate. In this case, we're talking about a home. The child can't do anything with a home. They can't do anything with an insurance policy. So everything has to be written up in terms of specific instruction. Who is going to own everything or do everything until that child reaches a certain age, right? Rather be a home or whatever the case may be. But if you don't own the home and there's a lien on it, and you still, because there's a mortgage that's still on the home, then there's going to be some type of equity because you paid into the home. What's going to happen to that, because they're probably going to end up having to sell it, possibly, right? And then you pull out, then who's going to actually get your equity out of that home once that property is sold, right? Depending on how that's going to flow. Again, all that state specific. I don't know what state you're in, how that's going to flow, but state specific directions impact a lot of those types of things. So your estate planning attorney will be able to best advise you on how that's going to flow in your state.
Alex Neves asks, do you recommend a will or trust or both? What determines which to use? I prefer to avoid probate as much as possible.
Yeah. So again. I kind of gave it the definition. I'm not sure where you came in at, but the basic thing is that a will is going to have public visibility, right? So they're going to know, people are going to be able to look you up and see what you own in your estate. If you have a will, they're going to be able to see how you distributed everything in the will, who's getting what in the will. That's public record. If you have a trust, it's private, okay? It's no longer owned by you, but it's owned by the trust. So you have to make that decision, okay? You no longer own it. It's owned by the trust, but you control it. Who are going to be your trustees within that trust? If you don't want to go through that and you just want to do a will, that's up to you. That's a decision that you're going to have to make. However, there's some estate planning attorneys that have the competency to be able to make sure that because you put it in the trust, they can structure some things that's tax favorable. That's the best way I can put it. Tax favorable because it's inside of a trust and they know what they're doing. Not all will know how to do that. I will promise you, not every estate planning attorney is competent and capable of doing it the right way. That's the tricky thing about it. Okay. So you're going to have to vet the estate planning attorney out to see if they've ever done any type of common law type trust. Okay. That's the one you want to go research, common law trust, to see how those are done and are they capable of making sure that asking the questions around taxes. That's the main question you want to ask when it comes to the trust. Based on what state you're in and the competency of that estate planning attorney, you want to minimize taxes coming out of your estate by having it in the trust structured properly. That's the best thing I can say. It has to be structured properly or you're going to pay taxes, even in your trust, right? So some are not tax favorable, depending on what state you're in, depending on the estate planning attorney's competency. It's just it's a lot of different variables there. So it's a little tricky, but we want to at least know that in a perfect scenario, you can have, like the wealthy, everything in a trust and very little to no taxes paid because it's properly done in the event that you were to expire.
Powerful. Any more question? You know what? Even what I like is, and I don't know who was here earlier when we first started, but like Shateka got a great program going on every morning at 7 p.m. Clubhouse. Do you want to share that? Because once again,
you mean every morning at 7 a.m. I'm talking about the retirement tips.
Yeah, this
retirement. Yeah, I have it's 99 retirement tips that I'm just kind of going through. So every morning on Clubhouse, I'm definitely talking about it at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just different tips. And tomorrow is tip number 4. And we're just like talking about different, I'm just bringing up different topics and things that you need to be considering for retirement because everybody, if you don't know who I am, let me just reintroduce myself real quick. Shateka Husser, CEO of Husser Financial Solutions, where we help you retire before you expire. So if that is you, we're the ones you hire. Our goal is to get your bank account on fire with a whole lot of lifetime tax-free retirement income that you will not outlive. Most people retire and they end up having to go back to the workforce because they didn't plan properly, unfortunately. 97% of people end up running out of money. And the biggest fear besides death is running out of money in retirement. And so I talk about the 8 benefits that most people are not aware of. They're only aware of employer plans. And the reason why, they have to return to work for the most part is because they use these employer plans that the herd of people go to and flock to because they don't know any better. They don't understand. But the one book that I can give you that will help you best understand is The Power of Zero, written by David McKnight. So the biggest thing is between taxes and fees, you're going to have your employer plans are going to be eaten away. And so all your hard-earned money, everything you work for, I don't care if you have a TSP, I don't care if you have an IRA, I don't care what anything you have that starts with a 4, it's going to be 30 to 50% higher in fees than a tax-free retirement account. It's going to have a lot more. You're going to have to end up paying taxes. Let me just be clear, those are tax codes. So I'm just educating people on that, right? Just telling them, you want your money protected from lawsuits. If you have a divorce, if you have creditors coming for you, the wealthy put their money in a tax-free retirement account because the employer plans, they can take that money. I don't care who you are, right? If the market crashes today, you can lose all your money in an employer plan, but you cannot lose it in a tax-free retirement account. Okay. Those are the types of things that I'm educating people on, the different benefits, medical, people go bankrupt in retirement. They don't plan for that. That nobody plans for a heart attack, cancer, stroke, or dementia in retirement. But 69% of bankruptcies are caused by medical expenses. Ideally, they're going to be happening in what? Retirement, because that's when people's bodies are starting to break down. And so if people can properly plan, their employer plans don't have any of that coverage. But a tax-free retirement account is what we talk about inside these and on these lives in the morning, every morning at 7 a.m. And we're talking about some other different types of topics. We're talking about why people are getting poorer and poorer because of inflation. The median, the average home sale price in 8 years is going to be $1.1 million. The average automobile cost in 8 years is going to be $126,000, according to the Debt Clock survey. And the Debt Clock, DEBT is what I'm saying, Debt Clock. Go research that. But according to that, home sale averages are going to be in 8 years about 1.1 million. And then cars are going to be about 126,000. The inflation is real. You are losing money. You're getting poorer and poorer if your money is not compounding for you, regardless of whether you have debt or not. Because if you have debt, it's compounding away from you because you haven't created an employment opportunity for your money. You have not become the CEO of your money, letting your money work for you while you sleep, like Warren Buffett says. So you end up working all the days of your life because you can't keep up with inflation. You can't keep up with the debt and the compounding of the debt. So you can't keep up with these things. Then you end up being poorer and poorer and poorer, or end up having to go back to work. So that's why people are getting smart. They're living below their means. They're not trying to live with the Joneses, okay? Because they realize that in retirement, listen, you can either be a slave and work for material all your life, or you can live below your means and be free as a bird, no stress, have a little bit less if you can't afford it. So people are doing all these types of things for retirement, but you can have tax-free retirement income for the rest of your life if you structure it properly in a tax-free retirement account. Now, if you start late, it's going to be less money. But if you start a little earlier, it's going to be more money. So it just depends on what your budget is, how much you can put away. People say, how much money should I put away? I get that question all the time. It's about your budget. It's about your vision. It's about, what do you want to see come in and when you're in retirement, because Social Security is not promised. But what is promised, or not promised, but we can expect, is that taxes are going to go up. Again, the power of zero explains that as well. There's less people paying into the system because more people are becoming entrepreneurs. People are living longer because of medical scientists, right? They're living longer because the medicine is just better than it was. And so with people living longer, less people paying into the system, do you really think Social Security is going to be around? And all the debt that we have going on? No, it's not. We all know that. We don't know when. It's a matter of, when. We know it's going to happen. But between Social Security going away and taxes going up, taxes was once 94% years ago. We expect it to go up. We don't know how much it's going to go up, but it was literally as high as 94%. So we talk about a lot of different things. I can go on, but that's not really the topic for tonight. But I get passionate. I apologize, because retirement is one that is near and dear to my heart, because I see too many people, and I know that the average person is going to end up back at work in their 70s because they don't understand how to properly plan for it. And they don't consult any type of professional. Nobody taught us how to retire. Nobody taught us about money. I don't know about you, but the average person hasn't been taught that in their household. They didn't know about how to do finances. They had to go figure it out and learn. Nobody taught credit in school. That wasn't part of high school. I went to college, got an MBA. They didn't teach me that. None of that. They taught me nothing about that, right? They taught me about corporate finance when I got my MBA, right? And a little personal finance, not much, but mostly corporate. So at the end of the day, you have to go out here and educate yourself. That's why the wealth gap is getting wider and wider, because people are getting more and more informed and they're getting wealthier and wealthier, while the people that are not reading a book and understanding where to go and research this stuff are getting poorer and poorer. I would challenge everybody to get an Audible account and just literally start binge listening to a lot of these different books around finances. There's a lot of great books out there, and honestly, just to name a few, You know, I don't even like the Budgetnista book. I just finished, almost finished hers on a trip because I do a lot of audibles. But Get Good with Money, I liked her book. African American female, she knows what she's talking about, right? It's a good book. But The Power of Zero is a really good place to start if you're trying to understand how to position your money like the wealthy are having positioning their money, and they don't put their money in anything that starts with a 4. They just don't, for those reasons that I already mentioned. So either way, everybody has to make these decisions, but if you can make a more informed decision, that's where a certified financial planner comes into place at. A financial advisor is different. They're going to help you grow your money. They're not going to necessarily look at your comprehensive plan that you're trying to develop for something like retirement. And so I primarily specialize in retirement because I want to see more people retire before they expire. Most people do not retire. They end up finally retiring and then they die. Mm-hmm. You know, so unfortunately, that's not a life well lived. You know, and so retirement is important for that reason. Move out of career to calling. For some people, their career is their calling, but to see people move from their career to their calling is liberating. I was an Army officer. I was a corporate executive. Now I'm just a free bird, you know, doing my own thing, business owner and multi-dimensional investor. I should have did this a long time ago. If somebody would have told me that the amount of taxes that I paid into the system, my Lord, and how I was on the wrong side of money because I was working in a W-2 salary position, great pay, but I paid a lot of taxes. So a lot of that pay went to Uncle Sam because nobody told me that I was on the wrong side of money and that I needed to move from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant that Robert Kiyosaki speaks about in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He says 95% of people are on the wrong side of money. They're on the left side of money. Why? Because they are trading time for money as a W-2, or they are self-employed. They got their own business, but they're still working really hard, trading time for money. They need to move into a business owner where somebody else is doing everything for them, most per se, or an investor where their money is making money for them while they're sleeping. Because again, Warren Buffett, unless your money's making money for you while you're sleeping, you are going to be working for money all the days of your life. Who wants to do that?
Nobody. Listen, shout out to Alex. Alex, thank you for the donation. Alex, like, he say, thank you for that info, Brian and Shateka. I came in midway, so thank you for the info. Tax-free is the way to be, everyone. It's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep. And you know what? That's very powerful. Once again, like he say, it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep. And even right now, by Shateka taking the time to share and give us the information to get us prepared for the unexpected. I'm talking about really shout out because once again, she got me going because once again, I was trying to share some information about the 4s when it come down to, retirement account. What the sense of you having the 4 from the company plan retirement account. So I've been listening to her so much that it's starting to rub off or whatever. And to me, like, why? Like, tell everybody, like, why? Like, what I'm saying, like, you really got into all that because you was telling me about, you lost 2 friends like back to back.
Yeah, 2018, 2 of my girlfriends passed away within 4 days. So just imagine your 2 closest friends to you passing away within 4 days. And if I was downstairs, I'll be able to show you literally the obituaries. But they had the flu, and they both didn't have it not even 3 days, and they both expired with it. One lived in Georgia, one lived in South Carolina. So it became, a part of me is that, they never really got the chance to live. They never really retired. One was a business owner, and she worked and worked, from sun up to sundown. The other one was an executive HR director. She worked a lot as well. She was divorced and single parent with a child with autism. She left a child with autism, behind. He was 13, a teenager, but that was back in 2018. And so everybody's what's happening with everyone today with COVID. I can understand somebody suddenly dying from COVID because I had 2 very, very, they both are going to literally move to Baltimore where I was living at the time. And wasn't able to because really quickly, suddenly they had the flu and they died in 2018. That was in March, right? And so I said, more people need to live. They need to be able to experience retirement, stop having to work all their life, right? From sun up to sundown. Like, there's nothing wrong with working for a season of your life, but literally until you die, you're going to be working. No, and that's not the kind of life we're gonna live, right? So they were 46 and 50 years old at the time, still young, you know. So anyway, I said that I wanted to see more people retire before they expire, and that's why I was able to come up with that little ring, if you will, retire before you expire. Because everybody going to expire, but will you ever have the opportunity to retire, or will you only retire when you expire?
And you know
Will you
what?
only take your rest when you're in the grave? Or are you going to be able to take some rest before you go there? That's the question. And so if your money is working hard for you, you don't have to work for your money all the days of your life, because your money should be working for you. You should be the CEO of your money, creating employment opportunities and teaching your children how to do the exact same thing, right? Because somebody should have taught me when I was a child how to do money. But I had to figure it out after many, many years later, how to do money. Do you know how much more money I could have had I known how to position my money with some of the products that I'm telling people about right today? Like, there's a 5-year retirement plan that I could have had back in my early 30s, literally, that I could have been like done forever. Okay. With the amount of money that I made. But instead, Uncle Sam got most of that money. Oh, tax. Oh, good old tax boy. He got my money. So at the end of the day, I want to help people be educated, because taxes is your largest bill. Most people don't know that. They think it's their mortgage, their car, their taxes is the largest bill people have. I went from paying taxes to receiving 5 figures back. Paying taxes to receiving 5 figures back. Why? Because I hired the right person to do my taxes. I had to switch it up. And you're gonna have to find a person that's gonna be able to help you with your taxes the right way. I'm not talking about these little jokers on a corner that y'all go to and pay $200 and $300 for. You need to pay about $1,000 probably if you got some real something going on, and go ahead and get thousands more back, because you were able to invest in the right person to prepare your taxes, because that's your largest bill.
You get what
If
you
you can
pay for.
keep more money, like the young man says, you can take that money and go and invest it and let that money multiply for you, so that what you can retire before you expire. That's what this is all about. We trying to retire. We're not trying to work all our life. No, nobody. Who's doing that? Who's still doing that? Where they still do that at?
You're right. And
Right?
you know,
That's what they say. Where they still that at? Nobody working all their life. No.
you
Look
just
at
made
this, and the Generation Z's and the Millennials, they got it down pat.
you
They
just
listen.
made
They already working on their retirement account. They're not trying to work past 35.
Mhm. You made a hell of a statement. You say right now, if you knew what you knew when you was what in your 30s,
You
you
wasn't
said if you
silent.
knew
What did you say?
if you knew what you knew when in your 30s, like how advanced you was. But even right now, when I'm listening to that statement, I'm kind of scratching my head. If you knew what you knew when you were in your 30, shit, you look like you're what 21 right now. So what the heck?
I'm not telling you my age, but I'm weird.
You
Listen,
hey, look, you don't gotta tell me. I already know. You don't gotta tell me. You don't gotta tell me.
I know, I
But
know, I know.
okay.
No, but seriously, I mean, really, like, these children today, they got it right. They know that the money's supposed to be working for them. They know they're not going to work all their life, right? Because that's slavery. That's modern day slavery. And so, why not make your money work for you? And depending on where you are in the world, it's accepted to work. Work till you're 65. No, nobody doing that.
I'm reading an interesting comment right now. Don't tell me he took it down. Okay, somebody put if we sign on our SSI Indian and not black, we all tax free.
What did you say? I can't hear you. Something about SSI. We all tax free.
If if we sign on SSI as Indian and not black, we all are tax free.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Okay. That's like I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute here,
I don't know about all that,
Hey,
but I do know that two things you're gonna do is you're gonna pay some taxes.
and you're gonna die.
You're gonna pay some taxes,
Hey. But you know what? Like I said right
and you're
now,
gonna die. Those two
you're gonna
things gonna
die.
happen.
Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Right now, make sure you tune in next week. Tell a friend so a friend can tell a friend, because once again, knowledge is power. And when you got this young lady right now, I be listening to her. I be at work, and I'm talking about at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the information that she got and she be giving is like unbelievable or whatever. And to me, that's what this is all about. It's all about what the sense of having a platform, and you're not sharing information. You're not sharing positive, powerful information that's going to help. It's not what the sense of she having. You got all that knowledge, but you don't got nobody to share it with. You know what? That's being selfish. But the difference is by you taking the time to come on the platform and the thing that you do on Clubhouse and on other social media, I truly appreciate your time because once again, I love it. I learn a lot and you have helped me a great deal, you know what I'm saying, within a brief period of time. And I truly, truly appreciate that.
Well, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity. One thing we didn't talk about tonight, but is creating the $1 million baby. That's what the wealthy do. They do that, right? And so when a baby is 15 days old, they're going to slap a policy on that baby. We're going to look at the baby, not we, but some people are going to look at their baby as a liability. They look at their baby as an asset. They slap a policy on it, 15 days old, and they trying to make money off of these children, right? And by the time they're 18 years old, why? Because that's another person that they can use to be able to put an account on to be able to grow their money and let their money make money for them while they're sleeping. That's another way to not lose money, but to have your money compound for you is inside of a policy. And that's why they do it on a baby at 15 days old. And then when that child is grown, they use that money for education,
Every day.
a wedding,
Exactly.
start a business, whatever they want to do, and buy their first house, all these different types of things. They're not looking at their children as, oh my gosh, I got all this bills. I got, no, because it's really cheap to put money on a child, right? So why not have policies on your children and let it grow? And then when when they're in high school, college, they have something that they can, instead of all this other stuff that people are spending their money on liability wise, what they do is, for the Christmas and birthdays and things of that nature, they start adding more of that stuff and giving very, very little gifts, but more into their accounts, building their accounts up, positioning their child for more wealth, and so that's the way that you teach them. Even when the children go to work, how much money are you going to put inside your policy or inside your, you know what I mean? That's the kind of the education, we have to learn as adults how to do money the right way. And then the children need to learn as well how to do money the right way, right? So everybody's teaching. So that next generation is better than the next generation is better than the next generation. And so that's how we get better. But, it has to be a different mindset. It's really about a mindset shift. And I know that most people here, you're here because your mindset is in the right place, right? Like you're sitting and listening because you're hungry. You want to know how to do things the right way. And so you're going to definitely do well. I want to encourage you that as long as you continue to, there's a lot of different things, a lot of different, YouTubes out here and different books and all that. As long as you continue to educate yourself with all the different platforms that are out here today, you're going to do very well with your portfolio and building wealth and those types of things. You may not have been born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but by gosh, by the time you leave here, my thing is I might have been born into poverty, but by gosh, I'm not going to die in poverty. It's up to me to do something about it. Who's going to die in poverty? Nobody's doing that.
Exactly.
So,
And you know what? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank y'all for joining us. Tune in next week, right now, because once again, this is our commitment. We're committed to this. We're committed to taking the time to educate everyone as much as possible. And like I told you right now, whereas like to me, I'm amazed. I'm in art. I look forward. Like even right now, when you give me the topic, I be like, okay, I can't wait, and that's what it's all about. So folks,
Brian, ask the people what they want, what they want us to talk about next week.
Okay. Hey, everybody out there, like, I like that. Shateka want to know, what do y'all want to talk about next week? And that's what it's all about. It's like right now, because we want this to be the people channel. What do y'all want to talk about next week? So the difference is right now, what we want you to do is, email me. Email me, Brian, Brian, Gibbs, Gibbs, 1201 at yahoo.com and talk about what y'all want to talk about. Somebody already put up credit. somebody put credit with
Credit.
Yeah. that was one topic, that was one topic, so That's the difference. It's like right now is, but I like that. I like this. I like, even right now, like the I like the involvement, how people joining in and people asking questions. Hmm? So
Yes. All right. We're gonna look at it. We're gonna talk about credit. Excuse me.
okay. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us. Hey, y'all have yourself a wonderful Wednesday evening. Good night. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Tune in next week. Same time, same channel. Peace, love, and prosperity. One love.
Thank you.